We're going to go ahead and begin. This is our third of four virtual legislative days hosted by MLA and MSLA. I will say that every event that happens, we refine it just a little bit, or my speeches get a little bit better. So thank you all for your kind understanding working with us. My name is Jennifer Harris. I am the co-chair of the Massachusetts Library Association Legislative Committee. I've been working with Will Adamczak is also co-chair, and we have been in training. We have Eileen Dyer, who is the library director at Swansea, as well as the full committee has been active throughout this entire season, getting ready to do our legislative days. I'd like everyone to remember that this is, we kind of pulled this together when COVID hit, and I reflected after our meeting yesterday. We really pulled it together to continue our conversations with our legislators, even through some very tough times. So I'm proud of us, and I'm so grateful to our legislators for being open and willing to hear us and to be ready to support us. So I will ask, and I believe people have already been using the chat function. If you would like to write your name in, we are trying to keep track so that we can welcome our legislators and their aides as the day begins. So I'm going to jump in and just say thank you and welcome to, I'm going to go in order here. So we have the aide, Tom Arsenal is with Senator DeZoglio's office. We have Representative Ruth Balzer, who is one of our co-hosts. Thank you and welcome. We have Representative Christine Barber, Representative Rob Consalvo. We have Chris DeFilippis is the aide working for Representative Jessica Giannino. Lauren Farrow, I believe, is an intern for Representative Balzer, and I think this is a great experience. So welcome, Lauren.
We also, just to let you know, Lauren's on my staff.
Lauren's on your staff. Oh, I thought she was an intern. Oh, but thank you. Yes, welcome, Lauren. Emerson Gagnon is representing Representative Owens. We have Representative Tammy Govea. I will say that I'm doing an interim directorship in Acton, and so I was able to reach new representatives. Senator Eldridge I got to meet, and Representative Govea, and we had a charming interaction at the election day, although the clerk was not happy that I was chit-chatting with the legislators. So, but it was a lovely experience. We also have one of Ruth Balzer's aide, Dmitry Gridnev. We have Representative Sally Cairns, Representative Emily Kibbe. I'm sorry. Emily Kibbe is the Chief of Staff for Representative Tammy Govea. We have Representative Kate Lipper-Garabedian, Chief of Staff Brendan Morris for Representative Balzer. And one of my favorite, of course, co-chairs of the Library Caucus, Representative Brian Murray. We have Representative Stephen Owens. The Chief of Staff for Senator Rush is here today, Ashley Powers. And of course, Senator Michael Rush is one of our guest hosts as well. And we have Representative, oops, sorry about that, Representative Danilo Senna. And I believe we have one of his aides, Dan Satella. We also have, nope, I'm sorry, he is, nope, I got that right. Okay, Chief of Staff for Kate Hogan, Griffin Teague, as well as Chief of Staff James Zengi for Representative Stanley. So that's a mouthful, at which point I'm going to take a little breath here, switch. Please keep, we will keep acknowledging people as the event continues. I do want to also announce that, of course, we're hoping that next year we're planning to be live at the State House for Library Legislative Day. We typically do it in the spring, maybe March 2023. We are always trying to stay ahead of the budget process and get our 2 cents in with our different legislators. So we also understand the value of these virtual events we plan to continue at least 1 or 2 extras as well as the live in-person event. So as we were preparing in the fall, our committee talked about it's time to gather our legislative breakfast events throughout the Commonwealth. And we had people who were starting to get excited, several lined up. And then unfortunately for everyone, Omicron hit. So we kind of fell back and reorganized. But I am very happy and proud to announce that we were able to host at least 5 or 6. There was a successful breakfast in the Berkshires put on by WMLA and also at Northampton Forbes Library. We had Clams down on the Cape, had an early virtual event. We most recently had Littleton in MBLC had an in-person event. We also had a live event in Worcester. I was able to attend that. Worcester Public Library was opening a new renovation and truly celebrated how wonderful it was to be in person. And I also have to give a shout out to Sales, who put together a fabulous virtual event with so many legislators in attendance. And the reason I bring this up is because during those events, we typically talk stories. We want to make sure that our legislators hear what's going on in their community libraries and how much we support their communities. So today's event, which will not be filled with library stories, but it will be filled with how it is we get the job done. So we do talk budget, we do talk finances. And so I'd like you to picture that you're at the State House. We've had our exhibits. We typically do a legislative briefing such as this. We then usually have a lunch, and then we go off and visit our legislators. So at this point, I would like to go ahead and introduce James Lonergan to put forward the MBLC legislative agenda briefing. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here today to support state funding for libraries. Thank you to everyone who organized this event. And thank you to our legislators for your continued support of the Commonwealth's libraries, including the budget lines of the MBLC and its affiliates, and of the Massachusetts Public Library Construction Program. In the MBLC strategic plan, our mission statement stresses our role in leading the statewide system of libraries in order to provide every person in Massachusetts, no matter where they live, with equitable access to outstanding library services. It also stresses our role in advancing innovation and fostering resilience in libraries across the Commonwealth through funding, guidance, partnerships, and the coordination of statewide services. We do this working with our affiliates and partners, the Massachusetts Library System, the Boston Public Library in its role as the library for the Commonwealth, the Perkins and Worcester Talking Book Libraries, the Massachusetts Center for the Book, and the 9 automated networks. As you hopefully will see in a moment from our fiscal 23 legislative agenda budget request, we are focusing on 2 state aid budget lines this year. State aid to regional libraries, line 7,094.01, and then for which we are requesting an increase of 1 million, and state aid to public libraries, so those are both highlighted, 7,095.01, for which we are requesting an increase of 3 million. Thank you to our legislators for increasing both state aid lines by 1 million each last year. State aid to public libraries is an annual voluntary program administered by the MBLC that distributes local aid to municipalities. Approximately 99% of the Commonwealth's public libraries currently participate. It encourages municipal support and improvement of public library services, bolsters reciprocal resource sharing amongst libraries, compensates for differences in municipal funding capacities, and offsets costs to libraries that circulate materials to patrons from other certified municipalities. State aid funds may be used in any way that supports the library and has been essential to helping communities during the COVID-19 crisis. During these challenging times, librarians and library staff have been helping their patrons to find jobs, to apply for unemployment and other needed benefits, and to start and grow small businesses. Many libraries have also been providing wireless access outside their buildings, and they are a key and sometimes the only source of free community access to the internet. Recent examples of how libraries have used their state aid include updating technology, paying network membership fees, and expanding digital collections, which has been particularly important during the COVID-19 pandemic. Libraries that are state aid certified also have access to reciprocal borrowing of over 59 million items from other libraries, MBLC, library construction grants, Federal Library Services and Technology Act grants funded by the Institute of Museum and Library Services, and to the MBLC Small Libraries and Networks program, which provides libraries that serve communities with populations under 10,000 with funding to support their network memberships. State aid to regional libraries, budget line 709401, supports the Massachusetts Library System, MLS, and the Library for the Commonwealth at the Boston Public Library. MLS provides delivery of approximately 14 to 15 million items on average to libraries across the state each year, and delivered 11.8 million items during fiscal 21 after having shut down the service for 4 months due to the pandemic. MLS also funds statewide databases in partnership with the MBLC. We're currently in the midst of a procurement process for products for the next 5 fiscal years, starting July 1st. In addition, MLS provides training, consulting, temporary staffing, and much more to help its more than 1,600 public, academic, school, and special library members. The Library for the Commonwealth at the Boston Public Library provides access for all Massachusetts residents to collections, including ebooks, databases, downloadable audiobooks, and digital magazines, to reference and research assistance, education and skill building tools, and to cultural heritage materials held by Massachusetts libraries, museums, historical societies, and archives through the Digital Commonwealth. Funding for line 709401 is critically important, particularly for strengthening our statewide delivery program and making it more sustainable for the future. So as you can see, we've created a website and I will pop that into the chat. For our legislative agenda, it includes fact sheets from our affiliates and partners that help legislators better understand the library ecosystem and the services provided by each organization. We're requesting 5% increases for most of our other lines. However, a larger increase for the Massachusetts Center for the Book, line 709508, which had been level funded from fiscal 2016 through fiscal 2020, and received increases for fiscal 21 and fiscal 22 that totaled 100,000. On the capital side, the MBLC is working with the Executive Office of Administration and Finance to increase our annual bond cap from 20 to 25 million in order to complete our waitlist projects in a more timely manner and to help communities avoid higher construction costs, which increase every year they wait to start their projects. If the annual cap is raised from 20 to 25 million for fiscal 23, we will be able to reduce our construction waitlist by half from 14 to 7 projects, rather than just funding 4 projects if the cap remains at 20 million. We will seek funding to support our next construction grant round, for which over 40 communities have expressed strong interest in applying in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, James. And now we are ready to introduce Debbie Fraggett from the Massachusetts School Library Association.
Thank you, Jennifer. I had to put in earphones and you still may hear children in the background enjoying the Murphy School Library in Dorchester from where I'm presenting. I'm also the Director of Library Services for Boston Public Schools. It's really nice to be with everybody today. All of the elements of the MBLC legislative agenda directly impact Massachusetts children. The agenda items bolster active citizenship in the Commonwealth. A significant element of a school librarian's teaching is to prepare our students to become lifelong learners who advantage the established systems in the state. The Massachusetts School Library Association fully supports the MBLC initiatives, inclusion, mental health, hotspots for students, and ebook content. In regards to inclusion, offered by many public libraries, the adult English language learning citizenship courses and the basic English learning programs benefit school-age children too. When parents and guardians can confidently communicate with school librarians, teachers, administrators, and other school personnel, students access an enlarged base of resources for academic and emotional development. The mental health training opportunities and the corresponding resources offered by the Massachusetts library system provide school librarians and their students with tools and resources to receive needed support. Sometimes school librarians are the first line of defense. Similar to the school nurse, custodians, and school administrators, school librarians work with and know every student well. What a benefit hotspots are for students. They were lifelines to education during the pandemic and continue to be so. Many school districts provided hotspots, but public libraries were there for families and students too. In regards to ebooks, the $300,000 MBLC investment for ebooks for K-12 students expanded rich digital collections. School librarians were consulted on book selections and formats. Simultaneous use licenses allowed whole classes of students to read the same book, bolstering curriculum. These digital libraries and classroom resources were critical during the pandemic. MLS recently reported that the Commonwealth ebook 2021 circulation exceeded 1 million. Most were borrowed by students, with 561 schools participating. I must add that upon return to in-person learning, students devoured physical books. Nevertheless, e-content is here to stay, and we all learn to leverage the benefits very quickly. However, access to e-content is not equitable. Across the Commonwealth, many schools are without an effective library program. An effective program offers a certified school library teacher, an adequate budget, and a responsible schedule that allows all students to use the library regularly. In regards to the Commonwealth ebook collection, only schools with certified librarians are eligible to access this amazing collection. Similarly, only schools with certified librarians can access the robust suite of state databases. Currently, 908 school libraries offer this important research resource, accounting for 58% of the schools. This number is astounding when we consider that there are 1,840 public schools. This means that 932 schools do not qualify for direct access to these 100% taxpayer-funded resources. MSLA hopes to work with the Massachusetts legislature and in turn the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education to secure policy that rectifies equitable access to these resources, as well as access to an effective school library program. MSLA looks forward to sharing theoretical studies that demonstrate how magical curiosity, scholarship, and lifelong learning experiences that a certified library teacher brings to a school community, how they impact of the success of our children. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Debbie. You've done great. Every event has been a different adventure. She actually broadcast from an Amtrak train on the first one. So I'm very impressed, and you certainly get around. Before I move on to introducing one of our co-hosts, I'd like to also acknowledge Emily Carrera from Representative Consalvo's office, as well as Julia Germani from Representative Kate Lipper-Garabedian's office, and Michael Munchbach with Senator Rush, which is the perfect introduction or segue. I would like to thank David Leonard from the Boston Public Library and also Trustee Pamela Carver for assisting me in reaching out to Senator Rush. He is so approachable and nice and warm. But it did take a little bit of help for me to get there. So I am happy to introduce Senator Mike Rush as the co-host of today's event. He is the majority whip of the Massachusetts State Senate. He proudly serves the people of the Norfolk and Suffolk district, which includes 5 neighborhoods in the city of Boston and the towns of Dedham, Dover, Needham, Norwood, and Westwood in Norfolk County. Prior to being elected to the Senate, Mike served as a member of the Massachusetts House of Representatives, where he was chair of the Boston delegation. He is a former high school history teacher, an Iraq war veteran, and a lieutenant commander in the United States Navy Reserves. He holds a JD from Southern New England's School of Law. He has received recognition for his legislative advocacy of our state's veterans, their families, and our Gold Star families. Currently, Mike sits on the National Board of Trustees for the U.S. Navy CB Historical Foundation. The senator was appointed to the Boston Public Library Board of Trustees in February 2021, and he currently also serves on the BPL Finance and Audit Committee as well. He and his wife live in West Roxbury with their 3 children who attend Boston Public Schools. And now I would like to introduce Senator Mike Rush.
Well, good morning, and thank you so much, Jennifer. Thank you for that very nice introduction. It is great to be with you and everyone this morning. This is just one of the all-time, my favorite, the lobbying days on Beacon Hill, because it sheds light on the importance of our libraries and just what they mean to us and how important they are. On behalf of Senate President Spilka, my colleagues in the Massachusetts State Senate, I'm honored to co-host your legislative event today with my great friend, Representative Ruth Balzer, who does an outstanding job. She's a dear friend. And a special shout out to David Leonard and Pam Carver for all the work that they do, which is just incredible. Just want to share a few brief remarks, and then we get a full day, I know, but as I think about the library as a whole, I often think that the library is a great equalizer for all people. It provides incredible opportunities for students, for seniors, families, job seekers, the economically disadvantaged, life learners. It really is, the library is a community center, a social center, and so much more. Here in Boston, the motto of our library is Omnis Lux Civium, which means the light of all people. And I think it truly is. The libraries both here in this area and across the Commonwealth and across the country are truly the light of all people. As you mentioned, I was a history teacher, and I have lived in libraries as long as I can remember and love libraries. I love going to libraries. Being in libraries are so important and just so critical. And it's very personal to me. This year, my children returned, they're Boston Public School students. They returned to in-person learning, and only to find that their library in their school, which had been put together by parent volunteers, there was no library. Parent volunteers found money and donated hours and hours and work and had this beautiful library. I was able to go to the dedication of several years ago, only to return from in-person learning to find that their library is no longer there. They have no school library. So today is a very personal day for me. They're heartbroken over it. The kids love, as we know, the school libraries and our community libraries. So I'm all in this initiative today to ensure that we have proper funding to make sure that Massachusetts has the very best libraries anywhere. And that it's something we're so proud of and we're going to continue to be proud of. And I'm ready to roll my sleeves up and fight every step of the way to make sure that we continue to be as proud as we are of our libraries. And I am honored to be with you here this morning and help champion these initiatives on Beacon Hill. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Senator Rush. I feel like we've made a new friend today, although I think you've probably been a friend all around, but for me, so thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And now I am happy to introduce our other co-host from the other side of the House, Representative Ruth Balzer, who is the state representative for the 12th Middlesex District of Massachusetts, which includes roughly the southern half of the city of Newton. She served as a Newton alderman for several years as well. Now serving her 12th term in the House of Representatives, Ruth Balzer continues to be an independent, progressive voice, fighting for the values and priorities of her community. She serves as a member of the House Speaker Mariano's leadership team as a division chair. The daughter of 2 educators, Ruth developed a lifelong appreciation of the commitment to public education. Following her graduation from the University of Rochester, she was awarded a PhD in clinical psychology from New York University. Before serving in the legislature, she worked for many years as a psychologist. In fact, she is the first psychologist to ever serve in the Massachusetts legislature. So that's impressive. Representative Balzer sits on the House Committee on Ethics, the House Committee on Federal Stimulus and Census Oversight, the House Committee on Rules, and the Joint Committee on Rules. The MLA Legislative Committee has had the distinct honor of working with Rep. Balzer on House Bill 4120, which is addressing ebook legislation that she introduced this session. Please welcome Representative Balzer.
Thank you. Thank you, Jennifer, for such a thorough introduction. I love that people get to know me, and also I love that you mentioned my parents of blessed memory who were educators and really taught me the value of books and libraries. I grew up in libraries. It's a pleasure to co-host this with Senator Rush. I loved his remarks, recognizing the important role that libraries play for all of us and for our community, and for his commitment to advocating this agenda. I just want to mention a couple of things about my commitment to libraries. As I was thinking about this event, I was reminded of my involvement before I was in the legislature in Newton, when I was on the Newton Board of Aldermen, in advocating for what we then called the new main library. People in Newton know this beloved institution, but I was part of, there was actually some controversy around establishing a new main library on the grounds next to City Hall. And we worked towards it. And eventually, of course, the history is that we overwhelmingly supported it. I've always looked back and thought that my vote that I cast on the Newton, what was then called Board of Aldermen, for that new main library was probably the most significant action I took during the 8 years I served. We have a beautiful library that benefits really the whole region at this point. And fast forward to this this past year, a constituent wrote to me that he had been to the library and had learned that the library was having trouble access ebooks and digital audio books, and learned from the librarian there that that was because the big companies, Amazon, were really making it very difficult for libraries to access that material. So he called his local state rep and said, what can we do about this? And we started to research the issue. My staff, who's all with us, did a lot of work looking into the issues. And then we got to know Jennifer and others in the Library Association and the Commission. And the result was we filed a bill modeled on a bill that had been filed in other states to make sure that the big companies would give access to libraries for this digital material. We didn't know we were running into a David and Goliath situation. The industry is fighting this bill, and in other states where there's litigation. And so there are a lot of folks who know a lot more about copyright laws and library issues than I do, who are working with the committee that's considering this bill to figure out a way to avoid litigation, but to make sure that libraries can fulfill their mission, which is, as the senator mentioned, which is really about equitable access to reading material for the public. So I'm hoping folks will support H4120, which is still in committee. And I just look forward to working with all of you going forward to protect this very important public institution. So thank you for having me today.
Thank you very much, Representative Balzer. It has been a challenge and fun and a learning experience. So we're in. So it's now time to introduce Marianne Cloggish, who is the chair of the Massachusetts Board of Library Commissioners, and she will pronounce our call to action.
Thank you, Jennifer. Excuse me. I'm sort of blown away by thinking about ebooks. Legislators, before I begin, I also want to thank you for your support and last year's funding. But now to the library community, and especially to those who are new to the advocacy effort. About 5 years ago, my state rep, Alice Peisch, told me, if we don't hear from you, we have to figure that everything is okay. She told me that when every one of the lines in the legislative agenda was underwater. The network line was down 52%, state aid was down more than 10%. The MBLC administrative line had not been fully funded in about 17 years. We can't ever let those kinds of cuts happen again. I mean, what is the message we send to our state reps and senators if we don't contact them? Now, if you care about an issue, you must make your voice heard. So talk to your state reps and senators, call them, email them, write letters, let them know what you're thinking. Ask each one of them to please tell Ways and Means that funding libraries is their priority. Each year, state reps can walk down to House Ways and Means and tell them what their priorities are. Therefore, you have to ask legislators to make funding libraries a priority. Over the years, I've come to the conclusion that just asking people to support libraries is like asking them if they approve of puppies, ice cream, or motherhood. It's a numbers game. The squeaky wheel gets the oil. Think about it. If you're a state rep and you get 100 emails and calls on item X and 20 emails or calls on item Y, which one are you going to consider more important? So it's all about the numbers. Every political office tallies up the number of contacts they get on each item. I ask this every year now. Can we set a small goal of just 10 people from each community to contact their reps and senators, just 10? Or even better, a goal of 15, just making simple calls or sending emails? So do not let attending this legislative event be the end of it for you. Ask your trustees, your friends, your significant others to call or email their legislators and ask them to please tell their state reps and senators to make funding libraries a priority. You know, over 90% of the funding in the legislative agenda that James Lonergan described goes either directly to local libraries or for services to local libraries. So when you write or call your legislators, first be sure to thank them for their past support, but tell them in your own words why you need state aid, how you use it at your library, why networks are critical, why delivery is essential to your library, why it's so important that state aid and the library requests are funded. Include the link to the legislative agenda, and if you can remember, include the numbers like 7,09501 and 7,09401. Remember, if legislators don't hear from you, they have to figure that everything is okay with you. And that would mean that level funding or cuts are okay with you too. So make your voice be heard. Call, email, or write to your legislators. Legislators have told us, do it as soon as possible. And don't forget, make funding a priority. Thank you.
Thank you, Marianne. Well, I do want to thank all our speakers, Senator Rush and Representative Balzer. It's been wonderful. We do have a engage message that will be ready to go out. Anyone who attended our events will receive a link, and the engage process is through the MLA website, where we can send, we can You can identify your legislator and send a personal note on how to support the legislative agenda. So at this point, I'm going to wish everyone well, and I can't wait to see you at the State House next year, if not sooner. Thank you all.